In the heart of the North Pole, a young reindeer named Kometo watched the legendary sleigh team prepare. Their coats shone under the workshop lights, and their silver bells chimed with purpose. Kometo's own antlers were still small, but his dreams were as big as the Christmas sky. More than anything, he wanted to fly with them. Suddenly, a panicked ringing echoed from the timekeeper's tower. Inside, Santa and his chief elf watched in horror as the great Christmas clock, whose magic stretches one night into 1,000, began to spin wildly. Its golden hands blurred, ticking away precious minutes like seconds. Rudolph, his nose a steady beacon in the growing chaos, gathered the other reindeer. "The magic is failing," he announced, his voice grave. "The night is shrinking. At this rate, we won't have enough time to reach every child." Kometo listened from the edge of the crowd, his heart pounding. Santa rushed to the library, pulling a dusty, ancient tome from the highest shelf. Its pages revealed the legend of the Chrono reindeer, mystical beings who could bend time itself. They were said to dwell in the Valley of Shifting Seasons, guarding the sands of time. "Someone must go," Santa declared. "Someone fast and brave." Before anyone could speak, Kometo stepped forward. "I'll go," he said, his voice trembling but clear. His best friend, a gentle doe named Alara, looked at him with worried eyes. Santa looked down at the young reindeer, seeing the fire in his eyes. He pulled a small, glowing compass from his coat. "This will not point you north," he said, placing it on a ribbon around Kometo's neck. "It will point you toward time itself. Find their leader, Kronos." With a deep breath, Kometo leaped into the sky. The frantic lights of the North Pole shrank behind him. The compass on his chest spun for a moment, then its needle locked onto a shimmering, distant aurora. He flew towards it, a lone silhouette against the starry expanse. He passed through the curtain of light and found himself in a place of beautiful confusion. A field of winter snow melted into a meadow of spring flowers, which bordered a forest of fiery autumn leaves. This was the Valley of Shifting Seasons. From the shimmering air, other reindeer appeared. They seemed to flicker at the edge of vision, their forms hazy. Their antlers were crafted like intricate clock hands and delicate hourglasses. The one who stepped forward was the largest, his presence ancient and powerful. "I am Kronos," the leader said, his voice like the gentle ticking of a clock. "Why does a child of the North Pole rush into our timeless realm?" Kometo, catching his breath, explained the disaster with the great clock and the shrinking Christmas night. Kronos' calm expression tightened. He led Kometo through a grove of ever-blooming cherry trees to a hidden cave. Inside, a horrifying sight awaited them. A colossal hourglass, taller than the tallest tree, lay on its side, a massive crack splintering its surface. "The sands of time are escaping," Kronos explained grimly. The hourglass was cracked by a great surge of impatience from the human world. The desperate wish for Christmas to arrive now has broken the very magic that allows it to happen. "Is there any way to fix it?" Kometo asked, his voice small. "There is one," Kronos replied. "We must find a mote of pure patience. It is a rare magic found only in the frozen heart of the hibernating glacier, where time itself is asleep." The two reindeer traveled together, leaving the shifting seasons behind for a land of absolute stillness. They crossed a vast, silent plain of ice under a sky with no sun or moon. Ahead, the hibernating glacier rose like a mountain of sleeping, blue-tinted glass. Inside the glacier, the silence was replaced by faint, insidious whispers. "Hurry up! You're too slow. You'll never make it in time." The voices of impatience echoed from the ice walls, trying to make Kometo rush and stumble. "Do not listen," Kronos said calmly. "Match your heart to the glacier's slumber. Breathe slowly. Be still." Kometo closed his eyes, forcing himself to slow his racing heart. He focused on the feeling of the cold, steady ice beneath his hooves, and the whispers began to fade. They reached a cavern in the glacier's deepest heart. The air was perfectly still. Floating in the exact center of the chamber was a single, perfect snowflake, glowing with a soft, internal light. It was the mote of pure patience. As Komedo's hoof gently touched the snowflake, the last of the impatient whispers vanished with a final shriek. The mote settled into his hoof, cool and calm. Kronos handed him a small crystal phial, and Komedo carefully sealed the magical snowflake inside. "We must hurry, but with purpose, not panic," Kronos urged. They flew from the glacier, the phial secure around Komedo's neck. When they arrived back at the cave, the last few grains of sand were trickling from the cracked hourglass. Kronos raised his head, and his clock-like antlers began to glow, casting a silver light. The last few grains of sand froze in mid-air. "Now, Komedo," he yelled. Komedo leaped forward, placing the phial with the mote of patience directly onto the crack. The snowflake dissolved into a liquid light that flowed into the crack, sealing it in a seam of gold. With a deep hum, the giant hourglass righted itself, and the sands of time began to flow upwards, magically returning to the top bulb, restoring what was lost. At the North Pole, the great Christmas clock shuddered, and its hands slowed to their normal, graceful, magical pace. A huge cheer erupted from the elves in the workshop. Time was stable. Christmas was saved. Komedo returned to a hero's welcome. Santa himself came to greet him. "Young one," he said, his voice booming with pride, "your patience and courage saved this Christmas. A spirit like that belongs on my team." A short while later, Komedo stood proudly in a harness of his own, positioned right behind Rudolph. He looked into the crowd of cheering elves and reindeer and saw Alara, her eyes shining with pride. He gave her a happy wink. "Now, Dasher, now, Dancer, now, Komedo," Santa cried. The sleigh lifted into the air. Flying through the calm, magical night, Komedo felt his heart swell. He wasn't just watching the team anymore. He was part of the legend, delivering joy to a world he had helped to save.